Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalina. Let's talk leadership. Okay. It works. I don't know. There's something set up, and actually,
Yeah.
Meet was doing the same thing,
Hmm.
saying I can't.
That's so weird.
You can tell I haven't done a recording yet. Since I actually haven't recorded since I was pregnant in November.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like in Canada, people take a year off of work. And in the US, I don't know what, it's such a different culture to go back after 6 weeks or some women less. It's kind of outrageous.
Outrageous. Yeah. Wow.
What did you do? Or, I mean, I guess you're home. So that's cool.
With my first, I was still working in the hospital. So, like, let's see, I was supposed to go back to work at 12 weeks postpartum. And on week like 11 and a half, I told my husband, like, yeah, I can't go. And he was like, okay, that's fine. So I just didn't go back to work. I was like, how can you leave your baby? I can't do it. So,
I don't. I think it's so there are a couple of women that I've worked with that were just really excited to kind of do the daycare thing and go back. So it does exist. I think it's often higher level
yeah,
individuals just kind of really want to be back in their
it's
role.
definitely a personality type too. Like, I have friends that like the monotony of being home with a baby is not like enjoyable for them, which is fine.
Yeah, but I think what's not fine is that the majority of women do want to stay at least longer than 6 weeks, and that's not what's talked about. Like that's what's not. So like I agree, it's totally fine if that's
Yeah,
your.
that's right. Well, big formula companies lobby and give money to the policy makers that decide we don't get mandatory leave in the United States. So companies aren't required to give women paid maternity leave. And the companies that do, it's rarely longer than 12 weeks. Sometimes it's 6 weeks, like you said. And that is all because formula companies are like giving millions of dollars to policymakers to make sure that we don't have that leave because the earlier you go back to work, the less likely you are to keep breastfeeding. So, they have quite the incentive to keep women back in their jobs, which is a bummer.
That and pumping. I mean, there's so many questions. Maybe we're diving right in, but I guess I'd love to start by just even getting everyone and even for myself to know what makes you unique as a lactation consultant, because I think there's so many. I've met with a few in
Yeah.
person. I mean, there are so many, but the reason I really wanted to chat with you is because I think you have a unique take on things that's so needed,
Mhm.
specifically in the tongue tie realm. But I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's kind of what caught my attention. So I'd love to hear from you, though, what kind of makes you unique in that space, because I think your work is really needed, and most lactation consultants, for whatever reason, I don't think have the same training as you, or I don't know what it is actually. I was sort of like, there's this what is it? IBLC. There's like a certification, but there's so much variation between lactation consultants. So very
There
curious.
is a lot of variation there. So there's two different types of lactation consultant. There's a CLC, which is essentially a course you just do online. You get a little certificate, and I'm not saying that those women aren't good. There are probably good ones out there, but then there is what I am, which is an internationally board certified lactation consultant. That is an international certificate. Women across the world can get that certificate, that licensure, and then practice within that scope. And I'm also a nurse, so not every IBCLC is a nurse, but a lot of us are. And but the IBCLC exam is basic lactation. It's a lot of latch and adjustment things. It's pumping, it's supporting mom at home. But then some of us go further to do what I believe is really important work learning about oral motor function, because that is not something that they teach for the IBCLC exam. You don't learn, you're supposed to go do a certain number of clinical hours, and it depends on what your background is. So I was a labor and delivery nurse, so I had less clinical hours to do because I spent a lot of time doing breastfeeding work with women, so those hours counted, but I still had to do some. And so my mentor trained me in these certain things. And then I also took this 40-hour class on how to really properly assess oral motor function in a baby. So putting my fingers in their mouth and seeing how they manipulate my finger with their tongue to give me an understanding of how they're nursing. Because A baby is supposed to nurse in a very specific way. And nowadays we have so many babies that can't do that for a number of reasons. And so first being able to find out, well, like, what are they doing? So like, not to get into like too many specifics, but a lot of babies will do what we call like tongue humping, where they're like slapping it versus this like rhythmic motion that they're supposed to be doing. So not every IBCLC is trained to properly assess that. And that is a problem because that's a big piece of the puzzle. And then furthermore, we have a lot of IBCLCs that are very well trained, more trained than me in assessing, but have fallen into, I don't know if it's marketing, like I said, formula companies, big baby companies like, that sell baby products, and then the airway dentistry world have all kind of come together and created a substantial business in the tongue tie world. And so whether we want to admit it or not, as IBCLCs, we're heavily swayed by the literature and by what other IBCLCs are doing. And so it's trickled down to now all these IBCLCs who are well versed in oral motor function, which is great, think that the answer is then a frenectomy, which is the surgical release of the tight frenum under the tongue or up in the lip or even sometimes in the cheeks. And so the reason my practice is so different is because before I became an IBCLC, my daughter had a tongue tie. She nursed horribly, and she had this really horrible silent reflux, which is not talked about very much because people confuse it with like babies that spit up. And the babies with silent reflux, they don't spit up. They more have like acid reflux, like an old person does, where it's like burns and they take Tums and something like that. So babies can have that. That's what she had. So she was very unhappy. And when I became an IBCLC, it was to figure out what is going on with that. Like I was like, this is so odd that this is happening. I have to like that's how my brain works. I was like, I have to get in there and learn everything I can about this because this just doesn't seem right. And every lactation consultant that I saw told me to get a frenectomy, told me to bring her to have a surgery. And my stomach hurt when I would think about doing that to her. I was like, that is not sitting well with me, so I'm not going to do it right now. But also, we were miserable. And that is where my practice was born out of, is like, what else can we do? That can't be the only answer. It is sometimes a good choice for the right family who feels confident in that choice, but there are so many women, I've talked to almost thousands of women at this point, who come to me and say, like, I was told that I have to do this frenectomy or we're not going to be able to breastfeed. And I feel really like yucky about that. Like, is there anything else I can do? So that is where my practice came from, is to serve those women. That is why I have ads out on Facebook that are very triggering to some people that say bodywork over a frenectomy. That's why so many providers comment on them and are like, that is not true. But unfortunately for them, they are not receiving all the information, and it actually is very much true. So that is why my practice is just a little different.
Yeah, and the body work is what because I think I hear body work, and I mean, I've taken my daughter to an osteopath now, and even that in one session, I
It's
feel
amazing.
just like shocking her range of movement with her tongue in literally one session. So,
Yeah.
it, are what is body work? What is that?
Mhm. Bodywork is just the physical manipulation of a baby or of anyone, but I focus on babies, to get a desired outcome. And so we're physically putting our hands on babies. We're doing something. There are so many different modalities of bodywork. All of them have their place. All of them are pretty much good. What I created was a little different because I took a couple and I was like, that's just how my brain works. I can't help it. But I was like, they're good, but it's not it. Like it's not 100% yet. And so that's also when I went back to IBCLCs and they were like, okay, well, your missing piece of the puzzle is the frenectomy. And I was like, it's not. I know it's not. My gut is telling me it's not. It's something else. And so what my whole practice is designed on is changing the actual posture of babies. And the reason for that is because I found over the years that because of our pregnancies, sitting at our desks instead of being hunter gatherers like we used to be, where we were walking and squatting and picking things up and moving, that our pregnancies are different and our babies are not able to like extend and operate the way that they used to in utero, and they're coming out very tense, and they're coming out with breastfeeding troubles, and they're coming out with what looks like a posterior tongue tie, when in actuality it's just a really restricted body. And when you can help them loosen up the body and relax and open up their posture, then you'll find that even if the tongue still looks restrictive, it functions very well. And so then you say, I don't know if this is actually chicken or an egg. Like, I don't know if there's actually a problem here or if a problem developed. And that is why, like, you experience a lot of babies, first time you touch them, first time you do anything to them, any sort of work, osteopath, CFT, CST, PT, OT, chiropractor, they literally look like they are like breathing a sigh of relief, like, thank you for doing that for me. I feel so much better, and because they're very dynamic, they change very easily. They change very fast. It'd be very different on like a 30-year-old, but a 6-month-old, oh yeah, they just totally unfold. Um, and so that's why I like the body work. And I just think it's really fascinating that like so little can do so much for the babies.
Yeah, how so for somebody that's like, no, I need the surgery, like what's the mechanics behind that or how does that work? Because
So,
even with the osteopath, it does for someone that's, I mean, I've worked with an osteopath personally, so I was okay, but she's reiterated, I want to say 10 times, like, oh, I'm not like, I'm just being gentle, I'm not hurting her, I'm touching her head, but it looks like nothing's really going on and it's not like a massage, it didn't look really
right.
hard. So it's like,
No.
what are you like? And it's not Reiki, right? So it's like it's not Reiki, but it's not massage. Like, what are
It's yeah. Yeah, it's somewhere in between where it's so gentle. They are babies. And in my like the newborn section of my course, I reiterate like this is a newborn. They lack head control. They are very small. We're using gentle hands, but they don't need a lot. And so like when I come in and I put my hands around a baby's hips and I do this very, very, very slight anterior pelvic tilt. So I tilt the pelvis forward. And so then their whole back opens up, their whole front body opens up, their chin comes higher, and it's like bing. Like sometimes that is all you need to fix a painful latch because before they were nursing, very compressed. And so they weren't using their tongue the way they're supposed to because they're all like cramped on top of mom. And you open them up just slightly. And it's like, I'll have moms in my office be like, oh my gosh, the first time it's not hurt to breastfeed. And now you didn't fix the root issue at that point, but you're on the path. And so then where the frenectomy comes into play, what I do in my work, I've sent like maybe 10 to 12 women. And by sent, I mean they decided they want a frenectomy. And I said, that's amazing. Let's go do it. Let's do it supported. But they did extensive body work. They fix 90% of the issues first. And I think that's the problem, honestly, with the tongue tie industry right now, is they want you to do the tongue tie first. And some people are even getting better saying do a couple weeks of body work first just to prep for the tongue tie release. But honestly, it's the tongue tie release is not fixing anything. I have a helper coming. Um,
the cute little helper?
that's my helper. Hello. The release is just severing that frenum. It's just severing that piece of connected tissue. So the body, like a rubber band, is going to respond to that. And if you haven't first softened the body and fixed most of the issues, then the frenectomy is number one, not going to work. You're not going to get your desired outcome. And number two, you're probably going to trigger some sort of other issue because it then is creating stress. And so sometimes women, after weeks of working together, after weeks of doing the body work in my course, they say, everything is so much better. I feel like the missing piece of the puzzle for me is the frenectomy. Like, can we do that? And I say, yes, absolutely. Like, that is very mother-led. That's a very different situation than a new mom, vulnerable, postpartum hormones, stressed about breastfeeding, going into a provider's office and being told, you're never going to breastfeed unless you go do this surgery, which is a cash procedure where they swaddle your baby and then do this like traumatic procedure to them. And so it's like if we can kind of look at how like different those situations are and how much better a mom is going to feel about the first option versus the second, then that is really where my practice came in. And I don't believe frenectomies are bad. I do believe they're overdone. I do believe they're taking advantage of mom. But in general, I don't think they're bad. It's just we need to really reevaluate how we're doing them.
That's so beautiful because it's not just tongue ties at all. I think that just mothers in general are so there's this fear-based approach to just about, I mean, it's even during pregnancy, it's infertility. It's pretty much across the board with women, maybe, but certainly in the
Yeah.
fertility, pregnancy, motherhood kind of, there's so much fear and this urgency, that sort of false sense of urgency that's created, and then you make decisions that you potentially regret, or you're not fully informed. And I think that's so important to just say, hey, look, it's not that it's not the answer at some point, maybe it's just, it
Yes,
doesn't have to be tomorrow, and there are other ways, and just take it, just slow down a little.
absolutely. Yeah, not making everything an emergency is like, I mean, so important. Even like when you go to your pediatrician's office and like have questions about something, it feels like because you're only there for 10 minutes that like you need to get all these answers right away and you need to start doing these things. And it's like there's actually rarely an emergency. An emergency is very obvious, but like rarely is anything actually an emergency in that sense. And I like to remind moms to like take your time. I have one mom right now, she's actually a really good friend of mine. Her baby is 7 or 8 months old and has nursed like she's been doing the bare minimum her entire life. And she still is like, I don't know if I want to do the frenectomy. I'm like, then don't make a decision today. That's okay. It doesn't matter if your baby's 8 months old, 15 months old, 2 years old. Like, it is always there. It's always available. Like, you don't need to decide something today, especially if it's not sitting right with you. Like, just give it time. The answer will totally come.
Yeah, and I think the other side of that though is what you're saying about, okay, but it's just, even with you, it's painful. And so if it's
Yeah.
painful, a lot of my friends, what I see is they just stop. And especially, for better or worse, that firstborn kind of, you're learning. And so a lot of women, because it's painful, yeah, maybe they're depleted, they don't have the support, they don't do the surgery, but then there is this painful thing happening. And so, I mean, what do you do there? What do you advise there? Because so for me, it was just like I sort of white knuckled it until I could I found an osteopath that was local. I
Yeah.
found you. I've sort like once I came, but first 6 weeks, I was just trying to make sure we were both okay at
Yeah.
the bare minimum. So it's like, what do you tell a mom that's like, especially first time mom, those first 6 weeks, you're in this a bit of a daze, but it's not working. And lactation, to your point, lactation, I mean, I had multiple visit, and some better than others, and nothing about motor function or body work. They did stick the finger in there, and it's like, oh yeah, well, she's sucking. And it's like, yeah, but like, do you see
Yeah,
how,
she sucked my nipple right off.
yeah, like it's not, and then it's like, okay, nipple shield, I think, is like the one kind of thing that they
Yeah.
put in their toolkit, which was really frustrating, because then I started using that, and that created a whole host, like it didn't make it, it just created this like extra layer of thing that I have to remove after. And
Yeah.
again, not mother led, not giving me confidence, not supporting the
Yeah.
root cause, like just so many issues that if I look
So
at it
many issues.
from a
I
distance.
mean, what kind of message does that send to new moms? It's like, you actually can't do this. Here's the nipple shield. Here's like a synthetic fake device that's going to do this role better than you, even though it's your own baby. I have a like reel queued up for something. It's about in North Carolina last year, 80% of moms that had a hospital birth were either given or offered a nipple shield. 80%, which is horrifying. I mean, remember, they make money off of these things. They don't make money off of like addressing the root cause of a baby. So it's I'm not saying it's all financially motivated. There is some level of like there's not a ton of IBCLCs in the world. Like compared to nurses, there's so many nurses, there's way less IBCLCs. So we see a lot of people, we get tired, especially if you're in an outpatient setting where you're seeing someone every hour, like, that gets a little, and so it can feel sometimes like just save breastfeeding. So here's a nipple shield. Like no formula, nipple shield's better than formula. And so sometimes they think like that under like good intentions. But to your point, it's like they didn't fix the root issue. They didn't make you feel confident. And, I don't think it sounded like they said that your baby had a tongue tie, but like a lot of times they'll say it's a tongue tie that causes the pain. And there are so many things that a baby can have going on that can cause pain with breastfeeding that aren't a tongue tie. So then potentially even you go get the frenectomy, it doesn't fix the issue. I mean, how devastating is that? That happens a ton. So really like working on like, it goes so far back. We need to be doing way more in pregnancies for breastfeeding preparedness. And I think that's partly our fault as moms, partly society's fault. It's a combination of things. We do a lot of prep for our birth usually because it sounds so big and so scary, and we have to be prepared for that. And we do almost no preparation for how we're going to spend potentially 2 years of our baby's life feeding them, you know? So there needs to be a little bit more preparation. There needs to be more women nursing like freely in the community to like increase that awareness, just like when we lived as hunter-gatherers and like everyone was breastfeeding around us, it was more normal. It didn't feel so stressful. It felt more intuitive. And then for the like the pain and the stress of like that first transition into motherhood, it is so important for women to connect with an IBCLC that they think is good before they deliver. And so have that relationship with someone before you deliver. Otherwise, you have a stranger coming into your postpartum space, you know, and whether they're the best lactation consultant in the world or not, it's like they're still a stranger. Your body still is sensing danger. You don't know them, they don't know you. And at least nowadays, there's so many opportunities. Like I do virtual appointments. So like you can meet with me virtually, prenatally. We get to know each other. I learn all the things about you. If it's your first baby, if it's your third, but the first two were so painful that you cried the whole time and you're terrified to breastfeed again, like, you know, those are important things to know about a mom. And so then when you have your baby, day 3, when, you know, things are feeling a little weepy and a little like scary, then you have someone who knows you, who knows your story that you can connect with, and they are more likely to be helpful in that situation than someone new, you know?
Yes, I mean that's probably like even if people just get that advice, I think that would have changed the whole and you know, if it's lactation, maybe it's like meal. I know a lot of people are doing meals now and the meal prep. Like there's just stuff that could be so much more helpful than these baby showers that like
Oh
X
yeah.
newborn clothes that were never touched. But what about, and I know people are now kind of getting into, you know, support the mother. There's that language kind
It's
of
getting
coming,
better. Yeah.
but it's just like, it's astounding to me, you know, yes, the baby's very cute and yes, you want to hold the baby and all that, but it's like, oh, you're just so missing the point in my opinion. And what you've said is actually really great. Prepare that ahead of time, you know, like here's about the nursery colors, like make sure you have what you need. And
Yeah.
you know, you come out of the hospital if that's where you're doing this, or if you're at home, it doesn't, but at the hospital, you get this binder of like all these resources. And I'm sorry, you have a newborn, like you're in a diaper, the newborn's in a diaper.
You're not reading that.
Who was reading a binder of information? Like,
No. I mean, they really should, like, when you go get like your anatomy scan, like you're halfway through if you're doing that. You know, you go get your anatomy, they really should say to moms in that appointment, hey, it's time to meet with a lactation consultant
yeah.
because we don't know as first time moms, like we don't know that we're supposed to do that. And a big part of my story is that like I was a labor and delivery nurse, so I was like, I don't need that. Like I already know everything about breastfeeding, and I got home and I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I felt so alone. You know, like who do you reach out to then in that situation? So like I said, then I met with these 3 strangers essentially, and like they're like poking my boob, and I'm like, what is this? This is horrible, you know? And just really empowering yourself with that prenatal time, getting like ahead of the game. And then same thing with the like baby shower, ask for things that are important. I've had so many moms buy my course for their friends as a gift, like a baby shower gift. That's a fantastic opportunity to like give someone something that's actually going to be useful, or give them like a meal train, like something meal train related, either make them something or make them bread. Or if they have older kids, like honestly, the most helpful thing anyone can do is take the older kids outside to play so that you can just be with your baby. Because I've seen so many moms like in their home and they're too like they have too much going on to like focus on the breastfeeding, and it's sometimes you need just I'm sorry, my husband's trying to take her out. Sometimes you
I'm
just
surprised
need
I'm having this amount of peace. I think it's my husband and my mom are like, I'm like, okay, between the two of you, you can negotiate and
the
manage.
grandmas are the best. If grandma was here, right? Yeah. My mom's coming this weekend. I'm so excited and get so much stuff done. Um, but yeah, they sometimes you just need to focus and like really connect. And that's what babies want too. They're very emotional. They're very like
Well, they said
basic.
if I'm upset, like she just knows, and I know, like by the end of the day, I'm so over it that like, and then she's over it, and we're just like, she
Oh
knows.
yeah,
Of course, she knows. What do you like? What you can sense it, so why can't they? Like, it's just people.
totally.
It's weird thing with baby, like, oh, it's a baby. I'm like, it's still like a human being that has
It's still
feelings.
a human being. And if you have 3 other kids that are running around crazy and you're like ping ponging back and forth, the baby knows that you're not focused, so they're not focused. And sometimes you just need a little bit extra, for the
It's the
first.
baby that started your whole, I mean, is that,
That's her.
yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna be 4 this year. And then you'll be 5. But it's really cool because so my course actually covers like older babies too, like all the way up through age 3. And that's because the problem, like you mentioned, is like, okay, well, it hurts. So I'm just gonna either go to exclusively pumping or I'm gonna go to formula because that latch hurts. That problem is that then you didn't fix what was wrong. And so it's going to manifest in other ways. And we're talking like thousands of dollars of orthodontia, airway problems, speech problems, solid food trouble, like any sort of oral motor function issue that a baby has is not going away by switching to a bottle, unfortunately. All you're doing then is feeding them, which is great, is a requirement, but you're not fixing any of the issues. And so that's when we're seeing all this other stuff with, I mean, hundreds of years ago, no one had braces and everyone had good teeth. So it's like, why is every kid having braces today? The 90s babies, all of us were bottle fed, and it massively affects the way that our mouth forms and develops, and people aren't really understanding that part as well.
Well, and that's an interesting, I find it fascinating. It doesn't take very long. Like we're talking 1 or 2 generations and like literally. So yeah, I'm bottle fed. And so if I'm bottle fed, it just that one generation of it created a whole mess, not just for my mouth, but then if I didn't intentionally seek it out, it's like, oh yeah, because I mean, in some sense it's easier. They sleep longer with formula. There are some benefits, convenience for the mother. And you can
Yeah.
hand it off easier. I
Mhm.
mean, my husband, if you have a bottle, then anybody can do it. But you're
Yeah.
sacrificing bond, like you said, problems down the road. I am really curious because a lot of these lactation too, it's kind of like, okay, triple feeding. And I'm going, do you want someone to lose their mind? Like it's like insane to me to think that you're gonna breastfeed and then you're gonna pump and then you're gonna give formula. Can you I
Yeah.
can't
No, the
even
triple
ask you
feed is
that with a straight
criminal.
face. Like
It's criminal. I've never ever had a family triple feed other than, hi Soli, other than like if we have something on the calendar, like I don't know, either another weigh-in next week or a frenectomy or like something where it's like we have a week before this thing happens.
right.
Sometimes we can do triple feeding for a period of time, with a very short period of time, with an end date. And it's like, okay, and then we're reevaluating, and then we're either doing this or we're doing this. Like we're not continuing to triple feed. And you would be so amazed. I had a mom that I saw this past weekend. She's been triple feeding for 5 months and she has her own business. And I was like, what?
How
Like,
are you even
how are you doing anything? I mean, that's insane. And she said, well, they just kept telling me I'm not making enough. And is that is really like, hey, Sully, I think you're about to be in trouble. Go eat lunch with dad. And that is really a problem that like pediatricians, lactation consultants, nurses in the hospital the first couple of days. The problem is that when you're in that like very vulnerable postpartum time, if anyone even remotely mentions that you might not have a successful milk supply, you don't get it out of your head. You think about that for the entire year. One of my best friends, her baby was enormous, and she believed wholeheartedly that she wasn't making enough breast milk because the NP at the hospital before discharge said the baby lost 8% of her body weight, which is a normal amount. Anything above 10%, we start to say, like, hey, let's see what's going on. But even still, not a big deal. And she lost 8%, and the MP said, you're not making enough breast milk. So she breastfed this baby for 2 years, thinking that she did not have enough breast milk to feed the baby. She was massive. And so it's like, you can't say anything. Once it's in there, it's totally in there. And then these moms are triple feeding forever, like supplementing forever, like stress, I mean, through the roof. And it's just really like a tragedy.
It is. So, I mean, I guess that's probably a good question. How often it's rare, right? So how often is that really happening? Because also those first few days, yeah, you're not producing enough milk for a baby that's 6 months old because you're not supposed
No.
to be produced. Like I think women have it in their head like it's going to be this like
Mhm.
fountain. The moment that the baby comes out, you're just supposed to have this like,
Right.
you
And
know.
that's why a prenatal appointment with a lactation consultant is so helpful. Or you can read a book, but like a newborn stomach is the size of a dime. So you don't need to make very much. And I tell, and I have this on my Instagram, and I tell every single mom I see prenatally, never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, should a baby be supplemented with donor milk or formula at the hospital. Never. A supplementation should only happen after day 3, really after day 14. Like, you have a generous grace period for babies, but after day 3 at the very least. And if it's a recommendation by a lactation consultant, not any other provider. I really so wish I could get the message out there that it is not a pediatrician's job to tell you to supplement with your baby. Like, just end of story. That's not their job. They can say your baby is not gaining enough weight because they're numbers people. But then they need to follow that up with, you need to see lactation and make a plan. And that is fine, but there should be no pediatricians saying you need to supplement with formula.
Like you're
And
saying,
especially
especially
in
when
those early days.
yeah, that I want to highlight because
Yeah,
I think I mean, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens.
exactly what happens.
A lot of hospitals are not even sharing that they have donor milk. Like even that, they don't even say that they have donor milk. It's like straight to formula, this like crazy
Yeah.
tracking. And to your point, I want to reemphasize this too. 8% is normal, 10% is normal, and like you said, up to the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks. I just want to like, I
Yeah.
because I didn't.
You shouldn't be anything for 2 weeks other than keeping them skin to skin.
Oh,
Here's the thing, if it like makes it easier to understand for women. So a baby's newborn stomach is like the size of a dime. The next day it's like the size of a quarter. It's so tiny. But if you have someone come in and tell you you're not making enough breast milk and they supplement with anything, donor milk, formula, what you've done is given this baby a 1 ounce bottle of something and you've now stretched their stomach. So you've changed the way that they interpret fullness. So, I mean, and this goes way into the like obesity epidemic we have right now, like we're changing hunger sensations and leptin and ghrelin, and we're changing all these things. And so then your body, which is making colostrum, teeny tiny, okay, teeny tiny bits of colostrum, your baby is like, hold on, where's that giant 1 ounce bottle that stretched my stomach and made me feel so sleepy and happy? I want that one. And so then any introduction of any bottle, breast milk, formula, whatever, in those first couple days has now completely changed the trajectory of your baby's feeding, and you are behind. So then you constantly feel behind. You feel like your supply is low. People are telling you you're not making enough because you've just signaled to your body, like, we don't need to keep doing this. Our baby just got a 1 ounce bottle. They're fine. So it really, it makes such a big difference. And like, the more we can get women to understand, just please don't do anything for like a week, see a lactation consultant, and then go from there, probably the better we'll get. But it's really hard to get women in that prenatal time unless they've had first babies that had a hard time. It's really hard to get the first time moms prenatally. It's not on their trajectory, unfortunately.
which is where providers, to your point, like providers should be, hey, this is on the to-do list, like, and
Midwives, OBs, it should be like, yes, a checklist. You need to do this. You need to go see a lactation consultant, learn about breastfeeding, take a class, something, just anything.
there's a birthing class. And so why, like even in birthing classes, I feel like maybe it could, tack on a unit. Like I just feel like
They really should. They really should. And there's so many breastfeeding classes. I'm not gonna say they're probably the best ones, but there are so many that are free where you can at least learn something. So you can at least go into that experience knowing. And the hospital lactation consultants and nurses need to be doing better. I mean, but they see so many people. So that's another part of the problem. It's like they're too tired to like constantly be reiterating this stuff, and then they're throwing out nipple shields like it's candy. And then to your point, the donor milk hospitals, they feel so excited because they're like, well, we have donor milk. This is great. But then they're still giving the 1 ounce bottles. And so you're still causing the problem. You just haven't supplemented with formula. But guess what? That baby is going to be supplemented with formula in 2 months because that mom's not going to have a milk supply. So it's just a bummer.
well, and so I guess that too, there are all these tips and tricks online. I think what I've come to is that like the best way to increase your supply is just to keep, like, I mean, feed, right? Like more, keep. So would you say that's accurate? Because I feel like there's all these like tips and things to be
Yeah.
pumping on top,
No.
and it's just stressful. Like,
No, if you don't have to go back to work, you just don't even need a pump. Like, unless you like really want like the opportunity to have your baby take a bottle once a day so that you can whatever, But like if you don't need to go back to work, there's no reason to pump. There is never a reason to pump in the first 2 weeks unless an IBCLC has told you we're going to start pumping, but that is like a NICU baby or a early baby or something has to be going very wrong for you to be pumping in the first 2 weeks. But then when you do that, what you're doing is saving your milk supply. That's all you're doing in that situation is saving the milk supply because your breast milk supply, the foundation of it is set in the first 2 weeks of life, which is why it's so important to have your baby pretty much live skin to skin during that time and nurse as frequently as they want to. So anytime your baby wants to nurse in the first 2 weeks, there is no pacifier. There is no swaddle them and see if they like get over it because I just fed you 10 minutes ago. In the first 2 weeks, it's just all the time because that is how you build that foundational milk supply. And when I see women that are 4 months postpartum that want to increase their milk supply, that is pretty tricky. That's a hard thing to do. Then you're doing all these things that like barely squeak the number up versus getting in there in those first 2 weeks and just even if your baby's latch is terrible, honestly, even if it's terrible, if you bring them to your breast every time they want and you keep them skin to skin, your milk supply will probably be at least, workable. Like you can at least fix the problem then. So that's why that piece of information is so important. If you do nothing else for the first 2 weeks, just nurse your baby on demand and keep them skin to skin and then call a lactation consultant to come in and help.
I love that. That's really actionable for people right in the beginning. I have a few. We got actually a bunch of questions, even though I put up that box. I'm glad. Yeah, one thing is fenugreek. This is this.
Yeah.
No.
I am not, in my work, I don't recommend any supplements. What I believe to be the most important thing to do is eat enough calories. We have been chronically undernourished as women over the last 3 generations. Breastfeeding women should be eating between 2,500 and 3,500 calories a day. So the recommendation currently is to add an extra snack into your diet if you're breastfeeding, and that's pretty much ridiculous because breastfeeding is a metabolic process. So when you feed your baby, your body has just pulled all the energy out of your metabolism to feed that baby. You need to bring it back up. Like think of it like that. So throw all your supplements away, eat more food, and then nurse your baby on demand. Because the other thing is that we really get rid of that honestly way too soon. It should be for the first few months, at least.
I like that. Supplements. I feel like people are kind of on this craze with supplements and it's
I mean, there's money in it. There's no money in just telling moms to eat a big breakfast. Like there's only money in like fenugreek, flaxseed oil, oat bars, protein bars, like those things make quick money for the people that are distributing them and they're not fixing the issue.
I think that's the theme across the board of this conversation is like root cause with the body, root cause with all these things.
Yes.
Think of it that way. You're not 4 months down the road. And I get, I mean, look, I'm 3 months in now kind of figuring it out. But I mean, it's hard for, like you're saying, those first 2 weeks, but when everything hurts, I mean, it hurts. And I literally just like, I'm doing this. I don't care. And it sucks.
Yeah.
But like, and you don't want it to suck. So if you can get someone in.
Totally. I will say the only product that I do think is really helpful on the market is the Silverettes. Did you use those?
Yeah, I'm wearing, I have them right now.
Those help. So it's really important to wear them for 20 minutes after a feed and then take them off and let your breast air dry. And that will help. So at least the pain is only from each feed, not like a continuous, like building upon itself, like pain and discomfort. So that is my only product that I am like, yeah, if it was hurting, I think the Silverettes are the move. But then finding out what's wrong because it shouldn't keep hurting.
Right. Okay, I think this one, final one, I could keep you forever, but should you breastfeed to sleep? There's this whole, like sleep is a whole other story. There are all these different theories. Like should you breastfeed to sleep? Is that bad?
Yeah, we could talk for like 45 minutes about this. My student and I that are making a podcast, we're like, that has to be one of the things we talk about a whole episode on because there's so much there. I think the problem is that we've for generations now gotten bad information, and it is not untrue that if you give a baby a bottle of formula and they fall asleep on their own, that they will probably sleep longer than if you nurse your baby to sleep. However, The reason that we were so the reason that babies fall asleep nursing is because there's melanin in our breast milk and because they were designed to fall asleep nursing. So like we take that piece of the puzzle and we just set it aside. And then also we have this issue of like chronic low supply moms that are like, oh, I just have a low supply. Do you have a low supply, or are you purposely trying not to nurse your baby to sleep? Because the way that the like baby's mechanics work most of the time is that they nurse, 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 they doze off, and then they keep nursing in their sleep. And so if you cut them off, you're missing probably half of your feed. So then you're telling your body not to make as much breast milk. Not only that, your baby is not getting hind milk. They're probably having green mucousy poops.
Oh, you were on such a roll.
That's okay. I could talk about
Mucusy, mucusy poops.
they'll get the green mucousy poops because they're only getting the front half of breast milk, which is mostly lactose water. And so that'd be like if we just ate sugar all day, we would have an upset stomach. They need the fat at the end, which then, like, if you let your baby do that, they will sleep better because now they've downloaded a bunch of fat, a bunch of melanin. They will eventually sleep better. But the problem is what we're comparing it to. We're comparing it to this completely manufactured, abnormal thing for babies, which is to give them 8 ounces of formula and expect them to sleep through the night. So sure, when you compare it to that, a breastfed baby looks like they're not sleeping as good, but it's not normal. So it's like our expectation of the situation is wrong. And instead, what I really like to encourage moms to do is find ways to get more rest. So like if you're upset that your baby is not sleeping through the night yet and they're a breastfed baby, and so you're thinking, well, maybe I should just do some formula and that would make it better. First, how long are you scrolling on your phone before bed? Are you staying up till 10 watching a TV show instead of going to bed at like 8:30 or 9 and maximizing your sleep? And then back to the food thing, if you're not eating enough during the day, you're gonna feel yucky. So both my babies have nursed to sleep
Oh
for
yeah,
2 years.
my daughter is like that's, and I don't, and she does continue to. You can feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I
That's
don't.
an
I just.
important part of their feed. It really is. And so I had moms in the course the other day in the Facebook group saying my baby's not getting full feeds. And I said, are you trying to feed at the start of their wake window, or are you nursing them to sleep? And they said, well, I'm feeding at the start of their wake window. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? I'm like, no, it's not, because your baby clearly, not every baby, like some babies will nurse fine in their being awake, and that's totally fine. We're going off of what they need. But if you have a baby with even like slight oral motor function issues, or if they get tired nursing or whatever, they need, in order to get that full feed where they're getting all the parts of the breast milk, where they're emptying your breast completely, they need to keep nursing in their sleep. That's an important biological design that we have now turned off in an effort to make our babies sleep through the night really early. I mean, there's like that whole book, Moms on Call. I think they're supposed to be sleeping through the night at like 8 weeks, which is so inappropriate. Their blood sugar is not designed to go 12 hours without eating. Like they literally were not designed to have that. And so then same thing, like I'm not like creating this like massive conspiracy theory, but like the science is there to say our statistics of type 2 diabetes in children is massively higher than it used to be. Same with obesity. And so can we bring it back to this like completely inappropriate expectation of a baby sleeping through the night at 8 or 12 weeks old, where their body has now completely shut down insulin production because they're not eating any food. So, you
Yeah,
know,
like I mean, the co-sleeping comes into play with this, and then swaddling and the pacifier. Like you've said, it's sort of, if there's an industry around it, I feel like we need to highlight, like, okay, there's an industry around this. They're making you buy something.
it should at least raise some questions. And I am all for, like, after 6 months old, if you need to do something to maximize your sleep, like you can start setting some boundaries. You can, and like at 1, you can start making some, is someone else. There's so many things you can do to like improve yours and your baby sleep that are not withholding feeds or switching to formula. Because I even have like old friends that they're like, oh yeah, I breastfeed, but I do a bottle of formula before bed so she can sleep. Like, and the other thing we're not realizing, and I say this very sensitively because there are so many moms out there that want to breastfeed that did do formula. And so this is not to be critical of them, but have we read what's in formula? It's pretty much disgusting. And so in my opinion, sacrificing my children's nutritional health in order to get better sleep seems a little ridiculous. That's totally not in reference to the women that could not breastfeed. Like my heart totally goes out to them, but the women that are really picking formula because they believe they'll sleep better, it's like I'm not giving my kids high fructose corn syrup and soybean oil and all those other yucky synthetic vitamins in an effort to make them sleep better. I'm just not.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just again like this information, like there's this misguided, like you get, if you get information from someone that's supposed to be a professional and you take it for truth, then you feel like I mean, every mom, whatever choice they make, they're trying to do the best thing for their baby, but there's this convenience component that comes in. That's the kind of when it's out of mom.
Totally. And a misunderstanding because if your pediatrician, which they will, tells you, oh, just do formula and they'll start sleeping better, you're going to say, that sounds amazing. Everyone wins. And the other thing that they do is they say your baby needs to be sleeping through the night or they're not going to develop right. And I mean, like you said in the beginning, we're totally terrifying moms. Number one, that's not true. Like they are designed to wake every 2 to 3 hours for their entire first year of life. And so to say that to a mom and then she thinks that something's going to be wrong with her baby, like they're never going to learn to read because they're not sleeping through the night, it's like that is so sad. And unfortunately, pediatricians and other providers are telling moms that. But worse than that is that women have heard these things and then are posting them in these Facebook groups. And so then we have these terrified, completely isolated women who are home with their first baby. They don't know where to go and they're going to these Facebook groups and they're getting some pretty dangerous information, in my opinion.
Yeah, so hey, I mean, I could keep you all day. There are lots of other things, but I think we touched on some really important ones.
You should.
Maybe the final thing would be how, because everyone's so worried about low supply. I mean, how do you know that you've got the right latch or they're getting enough milk? I mean, I think logically, right, if they're gaining weight and you're seeing the wet diapers, those are like the two kind of signs that you can easily Google. But is there anything,
I
moms
think
worry that
before even the weight and before the diapers is a happy baby. If you have a happy baby, then it's fine because they've made this growth chart, which like they made the formula companies made the growth chart. So just remember that. But we have babies that like don't track the way they're supposed to on the growth chart, but they're happy, they're meeting their milestones, they're comfortable, they sleep relatively well. It's like a baby that does that is not underfed. I promise if your baby is relatively happy, I'm not saying they don't fuss every once in a while, it's a normal baby, but relatively happy, then I promise they are totally fine. I have never weighed my second son, my second baby. Never, not once. I have no need to weigh him because I've always gone off his demeanor. Is he meeting his milestones on time? Is he happy? I think that that can make moms feel better because even if you go to the pediatrician, sometimes they'll raise their eyebrow funny and then you're all of a sudden doubting your supply. Meanwhile, you've got the happiest baby and they're like, oh, they're happy, but they're not eating enough. And then you go home and you start pathologizing your baby like, oh my gosh, something must be wrong. There's nothing wrong. You would know if they were hungry. You would know.
I love that. That's so important. I think it's just with everything that going back to the intuition of the mother and then having the right circle and support. I love both of those key things and the point of, okay, happy baby. I think the all of those pumping and all these additional things have a time and a place, like you said, but they should be time
It's very,
bound,
very, yeah.
and best way to increase supply is to just keep feed more frequently and fully. Like all of these things kind of they're simple truths in a way, and I think that's
Yeah,
lost. And I love that you're bringing that to this place where again, so much fear, so much moms just want to, you want a well-fed baby that's like you feel that your
totally.
worth as a mother is attached to that. And so if there's any question,
Absolutely.
you're going to jump on that and make sure it's not a problem, right? Because you want to make sure. So I appreciate you doing this work. I appreciate you sharing with us today. I think a lot of the questions, there are more still pouring in. So you can't, I'm like, increased supply post period is another one. Hydration without beside liquids. I feel like there's so many like little.
Because everyone's looking for the little quick fix. And I promise the answer is just to nurse your baby more. Don't put them on a nursing or sleep schedule because that will affect your milk supply. Eat enough. And then the other big one that people don't realize is just go out in the sun. Vitamin D is related to milk production. If you get more vitamin D, you get more milk production. Just go outside, take a deep breath. Like It doesn't matter if it's water, coconut water, or element or whatever. Like, drink some water, go outside. We really have overcomplicated it. And like I said, that's not women's fault. That is the consumer baby industry, the supplement industry, formula companies, etc. So,
No, I
um,
love this is the mark of a true, I think, client-centered provider, though, is that
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with you. We need to find a root cause and we can adjust it. Like it's
yeah.
way more providers need to be taught in this way. It's there's a fix and it's not you like your worth or yeah, I think it creates a big complex for women and then the answer is always outside of you. And that's just so messed up because the answer is not outside of you.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I am
Yes.
really impressed that you have your first baby and you feel this way because I feel like it takes time sometimes, like the journey through motherhood to like realize, oh wait, of course it's me. I'm their mother. I carried them for 10 months and then I birthed them. Like, of course the answer is with me and not with like, what are the brewer's yeast or whatever the thing is like that people are really latched onto at the time. It's of course that's not the answer.
Yeah. Well, but wasn't without I'm really stubborn. That's my that's how I'm just like I'm
And
doing it.
sometimes in today's day and age, with our breastfeeding statistics being so low, I do think there is a level of personal responsibility required to breastfeed where it's like, I'm actually going to do this no matter what anyone says, because bar for some like certain medical conditions, every woman should be able to breastfeed. So, like, there is a level like my student right now, she just had her baby. He was 10 and a half pounds at birth and
Wow.
her nipples were bleeding. And I was like, why don't you just pump for 24 hours, give your nipples a break? And then she was like, I am not pumping. I am not bottle feeding this baby. I am nursing this baby whether my nipples fall off or not. And now I'm not saying we need to be martyrs, but she persevered and 2 weeks later it was all better. He needed some body work, he needed some sunlight, he needed to loosen up, and then it was totally fine. But if you tell a mom, like, just tough it out for 2 weeks, your nipples will be okay. Sometimes they're like, ugh, I can't do that. So, but there is a level of personal responsibility and a commitment to like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna breastfeed this baby for sure. Like,
Well, it is a choice. I mean, it's all a choice. The formula is a
all a
choice.
choice.
But I appreciate you existing, which is like, okay, but get help. You don't have to just like sit there by yourself. So
Yeah,
get help.
no suffering, but there you can be committed to breastfeeding and resourced and get resources without like totally giving away your ability as a mother. That totally looks like that.
And so how do people, oh, the chaos is starting over here. How do people work with you, get to, I mean, we'll link everything, but
Yeah, yeah. Um, yes. Um, I
what's
am
the
on
best way?
Instagram.
What's the best way for people to, I mean, you have the course, so I'll link to everything, but
Yeah, I have my course and I'll give your community a discount. Because I want it to be accessible. When I first made it, the girls who were helping me launch it had it at this much higher price. And I was like losing sleep over the fact that I was like, we need moms to buy this. Like, we don't need like Kendall Jenner buying this. It's so expensive. So I've really reduced the price, but I'll make your group a discount as well. And then my Instagram is the love of breastfeeding. I put out a ton of information on there. And then I'm also available for virtual appointments. So that you can find all of that on Instagram. It's on my like bio link.
I actually love that because everybody for me is like all over the place and in Canada and you're one
Yeah.
person in one place, but there's so many people that need help. So I definitely love that there's a virtual component.
And
And
we
that
can do so much virtually. We've gotten bunches of babies back to exclusive breastfeeding from triple feeding, formula feeding. So there's plenty you can do virtually. Thank you, honey.
amazing. Well, I think we're
Yeah,
both
the
getting
children are requiring us. I
but
appreciate this though. Thank you so much.
no,
I'll
it's amazing and it's so like I want to just ring the alarm. There's so many people in my DMs right now just being like this, that, this, like it's so needed. There's no question. It's also like always kind of behind closed doors. It's this private thing. We need to talk about it. It needs to be
totally.
oh, like and it's possible and you just with the right help, it's game changing and it's a bonding component. It's not just nutrition. So like I
Mhm.
just, I it's created such a cool bond with my daughter that I wouldn't have and I'm
It's
so
so
glad.
cool.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I
nice.
agree
Oh,
totally.
okay, we'll get that up there. Thanks for making time so quickly and yeah, we'll keep in touch. Let's try to get some women help. I think they
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely
I'll email you a discount code for your community.
beautiful. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good lunch, you guys.
you. Bye.
This is